Welcome to Recalculating Small Business. Like its award-winning book, Recalculating is dedicated to small business in America. Your hosts are Don Mazzella and Dan Perkins. Don Mazzella is the editor-in-chief of the Small Business Digest. Dan Perkins is a registered investment advisor with 43 years' experience in managing money.
Dan Perkins here, your co-host, along with Don Mazzella of Recalculating for Small Business. Our radio program is dedicated to you, helping the small business owners increase their profits. We draw our name from Recalculating, voted the best small business book of 2017 by the Independent Press. In this book, it features ways to grow your small business. Now, here's Don Mazzella.
My co-host, Dan Perkins, is on assignment, but we're lucky enough today to have Alison Matz with us. She is co-founder of Skura, which is a Swedish word, which she's going to explain, and she talks about her a unique product. Alison, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. Nice to see you.
Well, first, Alison, tell us a little bit about your background and that of your co-founder.
Sure. Well, just to start, Linda Sawyer and I had been best friends since second grade, and we've stayed friendly over the years through all sorts of life turns. And actually, the idea for this company came from Linda. She is a proud and self-proclaimed clean freak. And one day she shared some insight with me that she was wondering why in her beautifully designed, impeccably clean kitchen, there was one thing front and center that was sort of disgusting and hadn't seen major design innovation, which was her kitchen sponge. And when Linda shared that with me, I was like, God, I never thought about that, and probably because I wouldn't even have a sponge in my house because I found them so disgusting. And we started kind of pondering, like, why is this so, and why hasn't anyone done anything about it? So we took our backgrounds and worked together as a side weekend project, if you will, for several years. Linda was the longtime CEO and chairman of Deutsche Advertising and had a very illustrious career and was one of the youngest women to rise to that level in the advertising industry. And I spent most of my career in the media business, mostly in the magazine world as a magazine publisher at several major consumer magazines, and then did some other media-related things after that. And we really, wanted to figure out how to make a better sponge, and one that we would enjoy using, and one that wouldn't smell, and that would look better in our kitchens, and would be an overall better experience. So we set out to study the U.S. sponge market, studied the companies that were doing business, what was going on at retail, what the materials sponges were made of, and we set out to really enhance and elevate the whole experience of what a kitchen sponge could be in terms of the material, the efficacy, the delivery mechanism by which the consumer can purchase the sponge, and developed Skura Style and launched about a year ago. And Skura is a Swedish word that means to scour and to scrub. And the inspiration for the brand name came from our product designer, who is a Swedish designer with deep roots in industrial product design. And he really served as a muse for us in many ways. And we loved Scandinavian-inspired design. And that's where we came up with the brand name Skura Style.
Well, now, that's a good start. But you also delivered in a different way. Explain to our audience how you deliver your product.
Absolutely. So Skura sponges are sold through our website, scourastyle.com. That's S-K-U-R-A, style.com. And we are selling the subscriptions, the sponges as a subscription to consumers. And we have 2 monthly plans. You can either get 4 sponges every month or 4 sponges every other month, depending on the level of cleaning, how many people in your household. And the reason we decided to sell the sponges directly to consumers through the website and through a subscription plan is because when we started studying the market and talking to consumers about their sponge use, we found that many consumers were complacent about how frequently they replace sponges. They were embarrassed by it. Like, ooh, I keep them sometimes up to a month, and I know that's a little too long, but I don't know why I do it. And there's scientific research that says that you should actually replace your sponge every 1 to 2 weeks because of the levels of dangerous bacteria that can build up on kitchen sponges. So we are selling these as a subscription plan so that it makes it easy for customers to know when to replace them. It's one of the mechanisms that we have that makes it easy to adopt what we refer to as good sponge etiquette. Sponges, come to your house every month. And also e-commerce is such a increasing way that consumers are buying, everyday household products. The other thing we did was we designed the scouring side of the sponge it has a monogram on it. It's a designer monogram, but it's designed to fade in about 1 to 2 weeks, depending on your frequency of use, as a visual cue that it's time to replace your sponge. So it's kind of a foolproof way to make sure that you're cleaning with something that is actually clean, which is, if you think about it, there's also scientific research that says that the average typical kitchen sponge, which is primarily made of cellulose, can be up to 200,000 times dirtier than a toilet seat, which is a completely disgusting concept, but true and backed up by science. So, our sponges are made of polyurethane foam, which has proven to harbor 99.9% less E. coli after a certain amount of time of use versus the cellulose sponge. So our sponges are made of a better material. They come to you frequently, so you make for easy replacement, and they tell you when it's time to change them through the Fade to Change monogram.
Well, what fascinated me when I heard about this is the idea, especially for men, if the monogram wears off, and it's a very visual way to tell you to get rid of the sponge. But the question, I guess, now is how much do you sell them for, and how do they compare with what I'd buy in the store?
Yeah, so each pack, we sell them in packages of 4, and the 4-pack is $12. They are a little bit more expensive than what the typical sponges at your supermarket shelf, but the superiority of the sponges, we think, make it a very worthwhile investment. They perform well. They don't smell. They have less E. coli after use. They tell you when it's time to change. They come right to your door, and they actually look much more beautiful. They are, a beautiful gray color, and then they come in terms of the foam, and then they have, beautiful, vibrant shades on the scouring side. The other thing is the scouring surface is different than your traditional sponges that everybody's been purchasing at retail, in that our scouring surface is made of a material that does not trap food particles. So you could attack a cheesy omelet pan, and the egg and the cheese will rinse right off. Whereas in your traditional scouring sponge side, that egg and cheese might be sitting there for days. And, again, another reason why the average kitchen sponge is kind of a disgusting object.
We're talking with Alison Matz. She's co-founder of Skura, Skura, and her website is skurastyles.com. But now, Alison, since this is a program about small business and how to, the two of you are lifelong friends. You decide to go into business. What are a couple of things? Why did you pick this product? How did you pick it? And what are some of the obstacles you ran into?
Yeah, well, we picked this product because we saw a void at a problem in our own lives, and that's where really the best ideas are generated. Is a pain point for if you have a pain point in your life and you can figure out how to solve it. You have to assume that there are, millions of other people who are feeling the same way. And our research proved that out, that consumers were buying the leading sponge brand in the marketplace, but hating it. They were buying something but having a hate affair because there weren't many other alternatives in the marketplace. So as marketers, we saw this, wide open opportunity that there was a real marketplace void for product innovation. And so we, decided to set out and create it. In terms of starting a business from scratch, building a brand from the ground up is challenging. On the other hand, you have the opportunity to go to market without baggage, if you will, of prior mistakes. Linda and I both spent, large portion of our career working with some of the leading consumer brands in the world, and often you inherited challenges and problems that you had to undo. And from, starting a brand in the business from scratch, we got to do everything sort of really trying to do it the right way from the get-go.
Well, how did you pick the name Skura, which is a great name, I think?
Yeah, so Skura is a Swedish word that means to scour or to scrub, and when we embarked on this project early on, we engaged the services of a industrial product designer who is a Swede, and he served as our brand muse in many ways. And we love Scandinavian design. It's very fresh and happy and clean. And so Skura, means what the product does, which is to scour and scrub. And it has a great sound.
Okay. Well, now, you, if I understand, you manufacture in North Carolina. How did you go about deciding about manufacturing, and why didn't you go overseas?
Yeah, for us it was twofold. One, as new business owners, it was really much easier and manageable for us to source domestically so that we could have control and communicate more easily with our manufacturing partners. But it was also about finding the best possible material that we could find to make a sponge that had all of the properties that we felt were important. And the foam that our sponge is made from is a patented foam, and therefore it has properties that no other foam has. There are foam is more widely used outside of the United States for sponges, but not all foams are created equal. A lot of foams are not as absorbent. They kind of push a spill around on a counter. This patented foam is as absorbent as cellulose, but it also has properties that make it so far superior, primarily when it comes to retention and growth of germs and bacteria.
Did you write a business plan beforehand?
Yes, we did. Yep.
What did you feel were the elements? What did you feel should be in the important elements of a business plan?
Well, there was, a big part of it was, who we were and our backgrounds and our experience and what we were bringing to the business as founders. Another big part of it was the marketplace opportunity, the overall size of the market, what we saw as the void, and how we plan to, enter into the market and disrupt it, and then the other part of it was, how we were going to market it. What were the elements of the messaging, the branding, the distribution channels, all of our supply chain and warehousing partners, and then looking obviously at the economics. How does this business look today? How does it look in 3 years? And what are the opportunities for obviously investment, and then in terms of profit.
Okay, let's go a little deeper into that, because do you fulfill yourself, or do you have a fulfillment house?
No, we use a third-party logistics company that is also based in North Carolina, and we warehouse our goods there, and then our website communicates directly to them, and they fulfill the orders directly to the consumer.
Okay, so now you have the product, you've got it. How did you go about marketing the product? And rather than go through like a supermarket, you go direct to consumer. What made you decide that?
Well, part of it is that the more and more we want it to be where consumers are, first and foremost. We launched this idea and this company, this brand with a really consumer-centric approach. And consumers are, present company included, do more and more shopping online for everything, everyday items, whether it's, online shopping for groceries or, household goods and clothing, you name it. People are shopping online. Amazon is the biggest retailer in the world. So it was going where consumers are. Secondly, there is a monopoly in the sponge business that commands most of the retail shelf space or real estate, and it's difficult to penetrate. So, rather than go that route, we felt let's, go directly to consumers and make it really easy for them to buy this product. And it's enabled us to have customers in every single state in the country. If we, went retail, we might not be in every store in every city, but, you could live in the most remote parts of this country and be able to purchase this sponge.
So you're bringing up an interesting point. You have a dominant person within the grocery channel, distribution channel, and you chose not to fight them, but rather to find another way to reach consumers. Am I right in hearing that way?
Yes, that's exactly correct. And it's really where some of the most successful startup companies of the past, 5 to 7 years have entered the market that way. If you look at, companies like Dollar Shave or Harry's Shave or, Warby Parker Eyewear, all of these companies have, all the new mattress companies, Casper Sleep, they've all come in against big behemoth monopolies and have delivered great product to consumers, often with some kind of product advantage or price advantage, and by going directly to the consumer through online.
Well, that's true, but and like in the case of Harry, et cetera, they usually price differential. But in your price differential, you're higher in initial cost than your competitors out there.
Yeah. Price is not part of our story, really, because the product is just so far superior, and every aspect of the experience with the product is better, from the packaging that it comes in to how it looks and how it works. So for us, pricing was not part of the equation, but the ease of purchase and delivery and value is certainly there.
Okay, but you now have the website, and you've got to get. How are you reaching out to people, and do you have any unique things that you've learned trying to reach your customer?
Yeah, we use all of the things you might suspect in terms of social media, Facebook, Instagram. We use search. We have done some partnerships with a couple of specific targeted websites. We have done, we've tested some influencer marketing. The thing that's working really well for us right now, which will probably be music to your ears, is radio. Has been a very effective advertising medium for us. It's a great medium for storytelling, and we've had great results from that.
That's really interesting. That's the first time we've heard that in a long time. Where do you go in radio? Local radio, sports?
We've been testing Sirius radio and having success on some of the news channels there.
Really, that's interesting. How did you happen to hit on Sirius and those for your product?
For one thing, Linda and I both have backgrounds in advertising and media, so we've got sort of an inside track on that in terms of both what we know as well as who we know, and getting intel. And secondly, it was from studying what other companies that are like ours were doing. A lot of other direct-to-consumer companies who are selling through their own websites are utilizing the medium. So we had experienced that and witnessed that and made an assumption that if it's working for them, then it might work for us. And we did some testing, and it's proven out.
Well, you're in business a year. Have you learned some things that surprised you during that year?
Oh, we've learned a lot in the year, for sure, and nothing necessarily that surprised us. I guess the thing that has been kind of really interesting is that, this is our first time in our lives where we're dealing directly with consumers. So when you're dealing directly with consumers, you really get to learn a lot about humanity. And, we get an enormous amount of super positive feedback from our customers, and they're rooting for us, and they get excited, and they love the product. And once in a while, there's, a delivery slip up or something that happens, and sometimes people are pretty angry, and you start to wonder, like, okay, they must be having a really bad day. So we try not to take it personally, and it's been a great study in human nature.
That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah.
The question I have, they say the small business leader jumps off a cliff hoping somebody builds a swimming pool before they land. What made you decide to go off and do this small business after being in such big companies and doing bigger things?
Well, we really believed in the idea. We also felt that, we had both achieved, kind of at the top of our respective careers, but felt that there was more that we wanted to do, and we wanted to keep on challenging ourselves and continue to learn. But it was really, it was belief in the idea and that wondering, not wanting to have that what if we don't do it. It was, it was certainly scary to jump off the cliff, as you say, but it would have been scarier to not go for it.
Where did you finance it yourself, or did you go with friends and family route?
We initially, in the earlier stages, did a lot of self-funding, and in terms of product design and development, and working on a lot of the initial marketing concepts. And then we did raise money through a professional network, not quite friends and family, but business friends, if you will, and have a wonderful group of angel investors who helped us get to where we are today.
If you had to tell our audience one or two things that being now a small business leader that you would want to pass on, what would it be?
Can you say that one more time?
Oh, sorry?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Sure. Well, a little convoluted. Essentially, what would you tell small business leaders? 59% of our audience are presidents and or owners. What would you tell them that you now that you're leading a small business, you would tell them to do?
Well, it always things take longer than you expected. They take more money than you ever expected. Be prepared to work harder than you've ever worked in your life, but be prepared to be completely exhilarated and excited and energized.
That's really terrific. We have been talking to Alison Matz. She is the co-founder of Skura, Skura. Alison, your website again for our listeners?
Yes, it's ScuraStyle.com. That's SKURA style.com.
A link to her website will be on Recalculating.biz tonight, where you can hear this show and every other past and future Recalculating show. And you can also tell us if you have a guest you'd like to hear. Alison, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? Go to 2hsa.com and get a free employer's primer. Health savings accounts are a cost-effective way of offering health care benefits to your employees and yourself. HSAs build retirement funds for your employees, improve morale, and reduce your health care benefit cost. For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your featured book. I want to tell you about a recent interview I had with Bob Bethel, a turnaround specialist with lots of success in small business. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. He tells us of his life successes and failures that have made him and his clients so successful. Over the years, Bob has brought 77 companies back from the brink and changed them into thriving, profitable businesses. His energy is amazing, and at 74, he proves that you can still have a great deal to give others if you just try. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. One insight struck me was that most companies do not have a plan. The old Chinese proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there, is true today. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. This has been Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz featured book.
Now it is time for Dan Perkins' Tip of the Day.
Dan Perkins here for Recalculating for Small Business with your Tip of the Day. Should you belong to a local marketing network? One area of potential business is other small business owners through marketing networks. These groups usually meet once or twice a month for lunch and discussions. Sometimes the group will invite a guest speaker to talk about how they are building their brand. People in different businesses generally go and make up these groups. If you have a computer problem, perhaps one of the members of your group can fix your problem, or at least tell you about somebody they've used to fix their problems. Sometimes members of your group can use your product or services. So here's your Recalculating for Small Business Tip of the Day. Reach out and ask your fellow business friends if they belong to a marketing group. And if they do, tell them you'd like to go. Shop around and find a group or two that you like. You'll make new friends and maybe find new customers. This is Dan Perkins with your Recalculating Small Business Tip of the Day. Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your Small Business Tip of the Day. Do you have trouble sleeping on a road trip? I travel a great deal and spend many nights in hotels. I just finished a long road trip and the pillows were terrible. They were so bad I had to go to my chiropractor when I got home. She told me when she travels, she takes her favorite pillow with her. It's really hard to function effectively if you can't get a good night's sleep. And if you put several sleepless nights together, you could be at serious risk, especially if you're driving a car. So here's your Recalculating.biz tip of the day. How do you find the right pillow? Start with the one you have at home. If you like it, then go buy one and make it your travel pillow. If you find one at a hotel, then write down as much information as you can on the tags. Look for travel pillows. These are smaller versions of larger ones, and they might work for you. If you're going to take a pillow, put it in a bright pillowcase. That way it will stand out and you won't forget to take it home. For Recalculating.biz, this has been Dan Perkins with your tip of the day. Dan Perkins here from Songs and Stories for Soldiers with your Veterans Tip of the Day. As a veteran, are you getting everything that you're entitled to? Many merchants are proud to offer discounts to veterans. They can be anything from a big box store to the corner market. Most don't do a very good job of promoting their veterans programs, so you'll have to do a little homework and find them on your own. This is especially important if you're making a major purchase like appliances or even a new car. So when you're going to the store, get into the habit of asking the salesperson, do you offer discounts to veterans? If they say yes, then ask how much. If you need a new refrigerator or a new washer and dryer, the discount for you could be significant. So make sure you get what you're entitled to by stepping up and asking, do you offer discounts for veterans? Your wallet will be better off for asking. This has been Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us Veterans Tip of the Day.
Marcus Lemonis, J.D. Powers, and John Scully, and 100 other presidents and experts contributed to Recalculating the book. Why did all these people agree to contribute to the book? I'm Don Mazzella, and I'm the editorial director of Small Business Digest. And for 20 years, we have been offering small business leaders information and data to increase profits. Recalculating the book was named the best small business book by the Independent Press Association. Whether you need help with marketing, staffing, finance, operations, technology, or many other subjects, they're all here in Recalculating the book. They're now available
at Amazon at a reduced cost. We've also created the radio program Recalculating on recalculating.biz.
Dan Perkins is on assignment, but we are about to talk with someone whose company is disrupting the medical industry, beginning with San Diego. George Scopetta, welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you? It's good to be on.
Good. George, tell us a little bit about your company, about yourself, and then about your company, which I think is absolutely fascinating.
Thank you. So I started out as a real estate developer developing medical office buildings with a partner, Dr. James Chow, who is a renowned plastic surgeon in the San Diego, Southern California area. He and I started out about 3 years ago purchasing and investing in medical office real estate. You know, we kind of built that over the last 3 years to about 200,000 square feet. And we have, you know, close to about 75 to 80 tenants total nowadays. So one of the things when he started, he started out working with UCSD, and he was the head of plastic surgery for UCSD. And when he decided to go out into private practice, one of the things he thought of is like, oh, well, maybe I can go to like WeWork or Regis and practice like one or 2 days a week there to kind of inch into going full on into private practice. And he found, you know, that they were kind of unreceptive, and, you know, really they told him flat out that, you know, you're a doctor, you can't practice medicine in our facility. We're an office facility. And so, you know, he thought about it, and he started looking up, you know, looking around the internet and searching and seeing if there's any medical shared office spaces available, you know, at least in Southern California or anywhere for that matter to practice out of. And, you know, what he found is there weren't any available. And so, you know, the idea kind of percolated, and, you know, as we started getting into the real estate, he kind of told me about it. And I was like, that's a brilliant idea, you know, and, you know, he's a doctor. He has multiple locations in his practice. And I think that, you know, it's something that, you know, he's like, he told me that, wow, this is something I really can use in my practice. I wish I had this available and this concept available, because it could save so much on you know, expenses, because as everyone knows, one of the largest expenses that any medical practice has is really their labor and their real estate that they practice out of. And, you know, that's one of the major deterrents now, deterring a lot of the younger generations who are going out and becoming doctors, is the actual cost of actually building out an office. And that's why a lot of people are going into to go work for hospitals and stuff like that, and the group practices and the private practice area is kind of shrinking in this country. And so we, you know, because we have the real estate and we built up the company, that we got to a certain point where we said, hey, let's set aside space in some of our buildings and try to see if we can make this grow and build a business around it and put a business plan together. And so that's what we did. And we started in San Diego in one of our buildings, and slowly but surely we grew to another location, and now we're opening 2 more up at the end of this month and 2 more up at the end of the following month. So we'll have 6 locations total in San Diego.
Well, let me stop you here now, George. I know what the concept is, but the audience doesn't know what the concept is. So basically what the concept is you log into our website, you log into our membership area, and if you want to lease an office space, we lease you an office and a patient room, and you can log into our site, which is www.WeShareMD.com, and you can essentially go in and schedule rent office space, and we call them clinics, in 4-hour blocks. And there's a morning, afternoon, and an evening clinic per day.
and you can rent office space on a daily basis, on a 4-hour basis, any day that you would like to practice to practice medicine. And with that, you get an office, a patient room, and there's a full-time receptionist at the front desk to check your patients in. There's Wi-Fi available, janitorial service at the end of the night. At the end of the night, and we have some basic services and medical supplies available to you as well, so you don't have to lug around all your equipment everywhere.
That's a very, very interesting concept. So let me see if I understand it again. So in essence, rather than build out an office that I might use 2 or 3 days, or find it with another doctor, I can for instance, if I were a doctor, have blocks, 4-hour blocks every Tuesday in one location and 4-hour blocks in another location. Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely. When you become a member of our network, you can use any of our 6 offices. And we have prepaid plans that allow you to get, volume discounts. So if you buy 10 prepaid clinics, you get 10% off the price of a clinic. And if you buy 20 prepaid plans, you get 20% off. And so really, if you buy the 20 clinic plan, you're really getting office space for 200 with a receptionist, and all built out with Wi-Fi, electricity, all these things that cost physicians a ton of money. You're getting it essentially for $240 for a 4-hour block, and there's no lease, there's no obligation, there's nothing tying you to the space, other than when you want to practice and you have patients coming in, you have a space available to you, and it's your space. It's not like if you go to a doctor and you rent space from a doctor where like the receptionist is giving you evil looks and stuff like that because you're encroaching on their territory and stuff like that. It's your space.
But what about your records? When I go to my doctor, when he pulls out my file, it's like 6 inches thick.
Nowadays all the EMR and the billing softwares are all done on the cloud and all done through the internet a majority of the time. And so all of that stuff can be accessed by him on his computer or tablet and is connected to the internet through our HIPAA-compliant internet connection. So all of that, all the medical records are available nowadays on your tablet. So it's very easy. There's not a lot of work, and the doctor's responsible for that part of it. We don't get into what billing softwares they use or what EMR softwares they use, but we focus on providing them the best space available and make it easy for them to practice.
No, it's fascinating. As it happens, one of my doctors has been in the same office between his father and his grandfather for over 45 years. But another doctor that I go to, she shares space in 3 different locations. Depending what day of the week she goes, I go to a different location. A different town, even, and I've often wondered about that. So, in effect, again, the world is changing. WeWork has just signed a major deal here in New York City for space, and it has 16 locations. WeWork is shared like you do, but only shares it for startups and people, etc. There used to be offices, but now what you're saying is, I as a doctor, I don't have to lug around supplies like mercurochrome and all that other stuff. It's all there. But how do you take stock if he uses some of your supplies? Is that gratis or do they pay for it?
Well, so a majority of it's for free. Most of what we provide is like gauze, the little sticks that they use to stick out your tongue and stuff like that. Like basic supplies, bandages, Band-Aids and whatnot. There's some other, like syringes and stuff like that are available, but for a small fee.
It's a concept, obviously, whose time has come, and you're in San Diego, but you plan to expand up in California or east to other parts of the country.
I think that right now, I think we're expanding. Our goal is to kind of grow the concept throughout the West Coast, and then do an additional capital raise, and then move into some of the major metropolitan areas on the East Coast, like New York and Boston and Miami and stuff like that.
Are you looking for partners in the real estate business to do this, or is how do you plan to expand? Obviously, your business on the West Coast.
So the real estate side of it is pretty much separate from the business side of it, from the WeWork side of it. They're two separate companies. However, we are in the process of going through our first seed round, and we're raising money from VC funds and private wealthy individual investors, and other accredited investors to start growing throughout the West Coast and into the East Coast as well. So we already are. We're in the process of finishing up our first seed round, and then that'll help. That'll satisfy our growth for the next probably year to 2 years, and then if we decide to expand further into the East Coast, we probably do a Series A at that point.
So, are you installing these offices in just places you own, or are you building them into new places? How are you going about?
We're actually doing a combination of both. So some of the locations are in locations that we own personally. Other locations are strategic locations that we wanted to be in, that we don't own buildings in that market. We see them, the real estate and the WeShare company, as two separate individual companies that operate separately. So, I mean, if there's a location that we own that our real estate company owns, that's a great location for WeShare, why not go into that space? But if there's a location that we think is a great strategic location that we don't own, we have no problem with partnering with other people and leasing space in other buildings. And that's what we've done. Of the 6 locations, 2 that we have in San Diego, 2 are actually, one is in partnership with Alvarado Hospital here on one of their campuses, because they saw a need for this in their area. And then the other one is in UTC, which we just are in the process of signing a contract with, or finishing up a lease with Welltower, which is a large national REIT, and we're going to grow into one of their locations there.
Well, let me ask you this question: Have these offices proved profitable yet?
Yes, they have. Actually, the first office that we have has been profitable since we've opened.
That's really interesting. But I guess my other point, I see a lot of medical buildings for doctors clustered around hospitals, which is understandable. But do you also have units that are not around hospitals, or do you take the relatively safer course of being around the hospital?
I think that when we invest in real estate, we try to stick to someplace close by existing medical and hospital. We've focused on doing that, and that's kind of necessary. We do have other locations that are in the community, different communities as well. So it's kind of a combination of both.
Medical services take up 1/6 of our national economy. I guess next question is, what type of a doctor rents from you? Pediatricians, urologists? What are the type of?
I think it's pretty much every doctor. I think that a lot. I think it's funny because when I was doing my investor deck, I kind of was thinking about what type of doctors use our facility, and we kind of labeled them in 3 separate categories. And it's really like the new doc that wants to, that's been practicing for a couple of years somewhere else, or is new to practice and wants to set up their own the new location. The second group is really the group that no one really thinks about, which is the existing doc that has a location already, that may have their own office already, but isn't seeing patients. But they're in like San Diego, for instance, but they're not seeing patients in Temecula and Oceanside and Encinitas, which are cities here in Southern California. Other cities here nearby in San Diego, but are further away. And so, I mean, similar to where you are, I think you're in New York, correct?
Correct.
A guy in a patient in the Upper East Side isn't going to go downtown to see their primary care physician. So, what we've been seeing a lot of is a lot of surgeons who have one location, one static location, but want to use our service as a way to grow to other locations that they're not in, to capture a patient base that they're not capturing in their existing location. And so we call that sort of like a scalar model, which is an existing private practice doctor that wants to, or a big group that wants to scale their practice into other locations. And then the last part group of clients is sort of like the person that's wrapping up the doctor that's wrapping up their private practice that doesn't want to sign another long-term lease. But if you look at the gamut of who that represents as a doctor, that's pretty much all doctors fit into those categories. Mm-hmm. And, I think where we've been seeing a lot of traction is the surgeon community, and primary care and pediatric and urology. All of those practices fit well into our, especially OBGYN, because you have an office out in the community where you can see patients. But really, 2 or 3 days a week, they're in the hospital performing surgeries or delivering babies, and they're not in their office. And so it's kind of like a waste of time, 3 days a week. That's a majority of the week that, they're not even using their office space that they lease 7 days a week, 24/7. And so this model kind of gives them the flexibility to get away from their typical 10-year lease and save money by only taking space on what they're going to use.
You're absolutely right. At one point in my career, I worked for Medical Economics magazine, so I know enough about this industry to be dangerous, but I happen to believe you have a very, very great concept. Well, my next question is, what about creating a dental space? Have you thought of that area?
We have, and right now our offices are small, so we don't, and so we don't have a lot of that space. We haven't built any of that out yet. But that's something that's come up, is like, oh, well, maybe as part of this we can have a section that's a dental area. Then we can rent to dentists and stuff like that want to grow their practice and do that. Right now we're focusing on medical space, but in the future that might be something that we grow into.
We're talking with George Scopetta. He's got the name of your company and how people can learn more about you.
Sure, it's called WeShare MD. It's we have a website out. It's www.WeShareMD.com, and by all means, it's free to become a member on our website and go look at the different offerings and buildings that we're in. So by all means, have all your audience go check it out. We'd love to answer any questions.
Well, I have a question. If I'm a potential patient, you don't help the doctors identify patients as well, do you?
We don't at the moment, although we're planning on. I think that what we try to do is connect the doctors who practice in the space and create sort of like a networking opportunity among the doctor community, and referrals may come out of that, of being together in an office and practicing next to a colleague that's primary care physician that's practicing next to an orthopedic surgeon, and he just says, hey, I got this guy in patient room number 1 that he's my patient, but I think he's got a torn ACL. Can I refer him to you? That's something that can be done through the doctors. So, just being part of the community, the WeShare community, I think that we try to foster and throw different events to kind of build that community and that relationship among the different members. One of the things we try to do is do different events on a monthly basis. I think this month, I think that we have a baseball outing for the different doctors. Before that, it was like a happy hour type event for the different members, so that everyone can get together as a community. I think that we plan on doing some other social media stuff like within the company to try to make it to try to help the members get other spur on that referral business. But that's what we've been trying to do, is build the network rather than focus on advertising for patients. We let the doctors do that with their own practice.
Yeah, no, that's great. We're talking with George Scopetta, who definitely has something that I believe will help to disrupt the healthcare. George, thank you so much for being with us today and for allowing us to look in on what I think is going to be a trend of the future.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me on your show.
You can hear this and every other past and future program, and you can also tell us if you want somebody that would like to hear somebody on our program. Thank you again, George Scopetta, for being with us.
Thank you.
Dan Perkins here with your Recalculating Small Business Tip of the Day. Do you know what spilled milk smells like in a few days in a hot car? Many small business people use their trucks or cars as transportation for them, and in some cases, employees. It's also a place to do business, and you want to keep it clean. I have a builder friend that took a new employee to a job site who packed his lunch. At lunchtime, he bought a carton of milk to go with his sandwich. One day, the worker didn't finish the milk and set the bottle on the floor. When he shut the door, the milk fell over and spilled on the floor and sat there for the rest of the day, and then the employee returned and noticed that the milk had been spilled. My friend tried everything to get out that foul smell. After spending a considerable sum on carpet cleaners, eventually he had to replace the carpet. Make sure you carry at least one roll of paper towels. Those you save may be your own. Check out recalculating.biz for more useful small business suggestions. This has been Dan Perkins with your small business tip of the day.
Dan's tip of the day should resonate with every small business. Having a bright, clear physical plan always adds profits. One recent survey revealed 71% of walkers responded that they would enter a newly refurbished establishment even if they didn't have anything to buy or were in the market for buy. So how important is it a small business for physical establishments where customers come in to buy? It's very important. Sprucing up a small business makes sense. Saving cents may cost a small business dollars if the right quality paint is not used. According to Hotel Association figures, the average time between major spruce-ups for member hotels, dropped from 8 to 7 years in the past 12 months. Why? Because new establishments are very important. But don't think these statistics apply only to brick-and-mortar stores. The entry page for any business is that company's storefront. For those online leaders who think they are immune to the need for change to their storefronts, think again. While changing index pages initially loses visitors, new visitors are usually generated within 3 months. So today's message, in a physical plant or online, stay new, it will help profits. Tell me, Dan, tell me about your latest book.
My current book that's coming out, I should say, is Why Can't Grammy Remember Me? And it's really the first book written for children between the ages of 9 and 12 and their families dealing with dementia. Dementia is a growing problem with the elderly in the United States and around the world. And we are not very well informed about what's going on, what's happening. So I wrote this book in the form of a mystery. And I have two little girls, 9 and 12, who have a magical power to seem to be able to find things that are lost. And so they go to their dads and moms and they say, we work all over the neighborhood helping people find things, and we seem to find things. And their dad says, yes, you have a magical talent to do that. And they said, we'd like to start a business to see if we can help other people. So they decided to start a business. The two girls' names are Hudson and Charlotte, and they start H&C's Lost and Found. If you've lost it, we find it. And so they build a business, and they convince the dads to build them an office and a treehouse in the backyard. And they get busy making posters and flyers trying to get customers. And their dads take them downtown, and they put them in the windows and on the telephone poles and light poles. And they go home, and first week goes by, and nobody comes. And the second week and third week, and nobody comes. They're really, really dejected. And the fourth week comes, and there's a knock at the door, and they walk over and open the door, and there's a young man standing there with one of their flyers in his hands. And he says to them, my dad says the reason why my Grammy can't remember me is because she's lost her memory. And your flyer says you find things that are lost. Can you find my Grammy's memory? Well, they don't know anything about memory, so they take his name and they go see their dads to see what can happen. And the story evolves into how they learn about what dementia is and what's going on in the body when somebody has dementia. And then they decide, while they can't find their customer's memory, they can help him build the tools to retain her in his memory. And so at the end of the book, there are about 10 to 12, 13 things that families can do together to work on to preserve the memory of Grandma and Grandpa, so the generations can know who these people were. And that's the story.
What a great book. When will it be available, and how can people get it?
Well, it'll be available on Amazon.com. A lot of people who have read it, who've had moms and dads that have been stricken with Alzheimer's or dementia, tell me that they really now begin to understand what's happening in Grandma's brain. And we took a different approach. Rather than do the typical brain cross-section, I work with the artists, and we design highways in the brain. And there's a brain of one of the little girls and the brain of Grammy. They both have highways, roads, but the girl's brain, everything is green and go. Grammy's brain is full of no left turns, do not enter, stop, no right turns. So all of the messages that need to come from our brain get screwed up, and we can't function. Great illustrations, though. Wonderful illustrations.
Well, say goodbye, Dan.
All right.
Time for us to go.
Thank you for joining us. And by the way, if you didn't hear all of today's show, you can go to recalculating.biz, and you can pick up this show and past shows to expand your knowledge as becoming more successful entrepreneurs. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success. Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.